Hi everybody. Today's video in the Getting to Know You series is about what it's like to be a small business owner. So some of you guys may know my company didn't start out being called MobileMoxie. It started in 2008 being called Rank Mobile because that happened to be a domain that I owned. And I think it stayed named Rank Mobile for maybe 3-4 years. And then we switched over to MobileMoxie. We've had a variety of color schemes, but I think for the whole time we've been MobileMoxie, we've had the same logo. When we were Rank Mobile, the logo was not good. It was so ugly. But it was what we had. And I bootstrapped the company, so I made do with what I had. I started the company after leaving a job with only $3,000 vacation pay that they paid out. And so I used that to buy a computer and some business cards and to fund a trip to SES Chicago, which SES doesn't exist anymore, but it was a conference called Search Engine Strategies. And I had committed to doing it when I worked at this job, but when we agreed to part ways, I still wanted to do it. I still felt like I had made a commitment that I wanted to follow through with. So some money went to getting me to Chicago so that I could hand out business cards and let everyone know that I was starting my own thing. So that was a long time ago, and for many years running the company, I just did it with myself and a few contractors here and there to help with billing, invoicing, accounting, admin kind of stuff like organizing health insurance, researching health insurance. That was a big deal before Obamacare. And then I hired my first full-time employee, I think it was in 2013, perhaps, maybe a little bit later than that. And then soon after, I hired another part-time employee that became full-time. And we've gone up and down in terms of the number of people working for MobileMoxie, but for many, many years, everyone was 1099. So they were technically contractors, full-time contractors, but you have to follow different rules and laws and things like that for full-time contractors. You have to pay them more. They buy their own technology, but they have to be able to afford to buy their own insurance. And cover their own 401k versus as an employee, and they pay their own taxes. And as an employee with your W-2, the employer does a lot more of that. So we eventually switched to actually employing some people. And the thing that made it happen was there was someone who had worked for us part-time who had immigrated to the U.S. but was still on a visa, and to stay in the U.S. she couldn't have a 1099 job. She had to have a full-time W-2 job. So my agreement with her was like, we'd love to keep you, and if you'll do all the paperwork to get switched over to being W-2 and help me with all of the taxes and laws and stuff like that, then we'll make it happen. And luckily, that's one of her strengths, is that she was really good at paperwork and doing all the taxes and stuff like that, just incredible at stuff like that. So that was how we got our first employee. And she had a lawyer doing all of her immigration stuff. And so the lawyer also told us what we needed to do. So it ended up working out really well. But it was a big commitment for me. I was nervous because I feel like if you have 1099 contractors, it's more okay if you say, hey, billing has gone down this month and we don't need you for all 40 hours a week or whatever. It's much more flexible. Now that didn't happen a lot, but I'm very financially conservative, and I try really hard not to overpromise anything. So at the time, it still felt like a huge commitment to say, oh no, we'll pay you this salary every month, and health insurance and taxes, and now we do 401k. So yeah, it took it was a courageous leap, I think, maybe for me, but ended up being really good. But we are still a very small company. So right now, we have, let's see, our part-time contractors still outnumber our full-time employees, and total with full-time and part-time is about 7 people, maybe a little bit less. Yeah, 7. So that's a lot of people. And for me, starting out, for many years, it was just me. And the 1099 contractors were even just for a couple months at a time. So then it would be just me for long stretches. So actually having 1099 contractors and then having employees that are around all the time, super helpful, but also a change. And a change for me, being a boss, and I'm an introvert. So being a boss as an introvert, I'm not great at, I don't know, I think I'm okay at understanding people's emotions and where they're coming from, but then all of a sudden, sometimes people will throw me for a loop. And so that's something where I have to spend time and energy learning how to be a better boss, and not just doing the work, but also doing the internal work so that I could do the work to be a good boss and run a good company. And it can be very lonely because we're a small company, and we work remotely. Everyone works from home and always has. And even though I'm friends with all my employees, it's not always right for me to talk to the employees about things that are going on in my life, or things that I'm concerned about with the company, or things like that. So there's not always people to talk to. And then a lot of people who've never run a company have really strong opinions about what it must be like to run a company and how people should run their companies. And they'll say rash things like, oh, that person's a problem, you should fire them, without really thinking about, well, there are consequences, who's going to do their work, things like that. And so, yeah, lots of people wanting to weigh in with their opinions when the opinions might not be, even though they're doing it from a good place, they might not be the most educated opinions or the most empathetic opinions. Yeah, so you do get a lot of external advice that you have to kind of, I would say, aggressively filter. But when I started the company, it was in 2008, which was the big recession. And I remember my dad telling me at a Christmas dinner, when I just started the company, he said, Cindy, what everyone wants in a recession. And I said, no, what? And he said, a job. Go get a job. Because he was nervous about me starting the company. But it ended up being okay. I really only wanted to start the company so that I could have cash flow while I was looking for a perfect job. But then I ended up liking it. So yeah, people think that it was some brave thing, but it wasn't. It was just me being creative as I was trying to find a really great job. And then I realized I had created a really great job. And at the time, I was also working on my book. And so I had a lot to do to fill the time. Even if I didn't have a full book of business, I could be writing the book, which I did. And, it was a good thing. That was a lot of effort as well. But, I was young and I had the time and energy. So why not? So yeah, that is, I guess, one perspective on what it's like to run a small business, small consulting business. So yeah, do you run a small business? Have you ever thought about starting a small business? Would you ever want to run a small business? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. Are you thinking about doing it? What's your biggest fear? What's stopping you? And that's not to say that everyone should. I don't think it's right for everyone. I'm not even always sure it's right for me. But now that I've done it for this long, I do think that it's the right path for me. But it's not what I always wanted to do. I never, as a kid, said I want to start my own business. So yeah, I've ended up here through happenstance, and I'm generally very happy with it. But what about you? If you have a job, have you ever thought that you could do better than the boss? And if so, what was it about? Why? Are you more clear-headed than your boss or the people who run your company? Yeah, I would love to know those things, those thoughts, because it is hard being a boss. You have a lot of things that you have to factor into all of your decisions. And yeah, like I said, that can be a bit lonely. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching this video in the Getting to Know You series. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me your stories, what you want to hear more about. I'm just really excited to get to know you. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. To be notified about future videos, click the logo. And to try the MobileMoxie mobile SEO toolset, use the promo code YouTube to get 30 days free.